Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Day After Podcast.
How's it going, guys? Halloween is fast approaching. And
Mhm.
I gotta say, this episode was like watching a horror movie for a little bit, near the end. Like, legit, I was concerned for all three contestants. I barely like breathed during that tribal council because I'm like, what's gonna happen?
Which
What's
is
gonna
which is so crazy because we shouldn't be concerned. Like it should have been. It's such an easy decision. Like I think from an outsider's perspective, looking in on that is we got Ricard and Shan who have been loyal to each other the entire time. They've been the duo, and then you got Jeannie who hasn't really been like associated too much with them. Like she's kind of been the
No.
outsider the entire time. Um, and yeah, I think this was great on editing. I think because I think it would have been very clear that it was Jeannie going home in a lot of other scenarios, but they edited this
Yeah,
in a way to
I
make it
know.
still seem.
They did open it up a lot because like especially when if I'm not here on day 12 when they said that line and they were really, I don't want to say ham up the
Yeah.
whole like bonding between Shannon and Liana,
Mhm.
because like what she was saying was her story and it was like true feelings and she
Mhm.
made like a strong connection with someone,
Ooh.
but they were spending a lot of time hyping it up. And
Yeah.
then when she said that one line, I was like, are they going, is this where Shan gets eliminated?
Uh-huh.
And then that whole like fight between her and Ricard, where I was
Yeah.
like, oh shit.
It would have been interesting if Shan went home there and then we would have had the storyline with Liana and Ricard.
I
That
would have
would have
been
been
like,
interesting,
oh
but
snap.
yeah, I mean, going back though to what you said with Shannon and Liana, I'm pretty sure that this is going to be the duo. Actually, I
Yeah.
really do think that they are going to team up, and it's going to not. No one's going to see it coming. It's just going to happen for a couple of votes, and then suddenly that's just going to be who's controlling.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
and oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I know like that's going to play a factor because like it's kind of like, oh, I have this best friend, but then I meet this new person and we
Mhm.
vibe a bit more, like I don't know, is
Yeah.
if this is like Toy Story, is Ricard gonna pull a Woody on Liana and like, you know, try and
Mhm.
push her out the window?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh
don't know. I will say, I actually saw a bit of a winner's edit for Liana this episode. I actually see her winner's path this episode more than I've seen it the last few episodes.
yeah.
Um, like I can see her working with Shan. Shan is doing all of the big moves and everything, but Liana is playing that social game that gets the end, and Shan it doesn't get either the credit or she gets cut right before. And Liana kind of gets bequeathed all of the moves and
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
she gets I can definitely start to see more of a sleeper threat within
Mhm.
Liana this time around. Grant,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of things, but like I feel that there have been a lot of things. So like Liana to this point, like she's been shown with like Evie and stuff like that, but and doing well in challenges, but like challenges, it's all over the place. Like there's been a
Yeah.
lot of stuff going on, so we haven't really
Yeah.
been on her too much.
Uh-huh.
So it was nice. And plus that advantage. Now, granted, one of my roommates came in and he was messing around with me. I was like, no, they're explaining the rules to this advantage.
Yeah.
And like the one
Terrible
time,
advantage. Terrible advantage.
I mean, so because that happened, I like half understood the rules. So isn't it like a steal advantage?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a knowledge is power. So you basically can ask someone at tribal. You have to do it at tribal. You have to tell them either one of two questions. Either do you have an advantage or do you have an idol? And they're not allowed to lie. So even if they try to pull one over, they're not allowed to. So they take away what I would consider a pretty core aspect of Survivor in terms of being able to lie about something, and then you just get to take it. It just then becomes yours. which also is annoying because Xander is probably the one who's going to get this played on, and
Yeah.
he's been on the bottom for so long that no one's going to want to see that happen.
Well, I mean, here's another thing because, and we'll get to the idols being like activated in a second, but because the whole thing and everyone knows that, oh, there are like there's a password you have to say in order to activate them, and it has to be by the person who has the idol. If you know this knowledge and then you're like, oh, okay, so the people that have idols, oh, Shan said that thing, I guess she found the idol after Brad did, and then oh, okay, Nasir also set a password. So like those two have idols, and plus the people that go on these little prisoner's dilemma things, like, because you can kind of figure out just by like who's been there and what people have told you. So like I feel like while Xander is the prominent choice, especially since they went through their his bag and stuff and was like, oh, he's a big threat. He does seem like the number one target, but I feel like her advantage is very playable with other people as well.
Yeah. I was watching Rob has a podcast, their episode about this, and Stephen Fishback had a really good idea on how to do this advantage, have the same effect while I think probably improving upon it. And that was that you have the ability to steal and whatever from their bag. So you still have to know who it is because you have to successfully manage to get into their bag. But it doesn't require them to now suddenly have to tell the truth. It still is, there's now kind of like this tense moment where they have to now like figure out when's the best time to steal from the bag. And then it would be a great, also big shocking moment when the person goes back to their bag and notices that their thing's gone. And they're like, I've been where is it?
That would be interesting. Maybe in a future season, since like they are really establishing some like newer like a Beware idol and like different variations. And someone was like, oh, what is on the Facebook group I'm in, was like, oh, if you could make like an advantage. And for me, I was thinking of like a steal at advantage thing. So it was interesting to see that actually finally played. That actually being in the show.
Or even if it was just like you have to steal it, but you have to play it right then. The fact that you can kind of just take it and then keep it for whenever, like
it's a tad bit broken. I feel like the thing is, because this season doesn't really have as many secrets, like it's a lot more, this is a lot more OP than let's say a season where everyone is playing really, really close to their chest. So it's interesting to see.
It is just, I think it becomes pretty obvious who's the ones who have the idols once you know how the idols work. I think it becomes pretty obvious. And so that is another big thing, is now that Nasir, Chantel, and Xander all have an idol. So if you ever wind up with them and you find out that they have not played an idol yet, then they probably still have that idol.
Same with the extra vote. Because like, well, I mean, on Yasir, not Nasir, on Yesa tribe, I just love Nasir so much. I'm like, make him a tribe.
He can be a one-man tribe. Him and Nathan can team up.
Maybe
that'd be a great tribe.
Perhaps. But there was this thing where it was like, because I believe Evie went with, was it JD or
with Deshaun?
Deshaun.
It was Deshaun and Evie,
yeah. And so like Liana and Evie are close, so like intel from there, because it does offer a thing where, especially if they're more of a public thing, like at the end of a challenge where it's like, oh, pick two people, then or like they tell you when they come back, it's like you can kind of piece things together a bit more. So I feel like Leona has a lot of power going forward in this game, especially since they didn't say what the advantage was until like she got it.
Yeah, and especially since really her biggest fear was Xander playing an idol. Like that was the thing that was going to probably send her home at this next trial if they wins. Because it seems like Xander and her aren't really on the same page at all. Like Xander trusts Tiffany and Evie more than Liana. So if they were to
the
vote,
whole thing with, speaking of which, that whole thing with Tiffany where he just kind of like straight up lied, and it was something where he didn't do it the best way because he just kind of was like, oh, I found it today. But then the password stuff kind of like called him out on it, and he was like, crap. He was he's obviously in a little hot water, especially since we're approaching the merge.
For fake merge, we're getting a fake merge.
I don't know what he's saying with that. It was like drop your buffs because.
I mean, I have an idea. I think I know what they're doing. I think they might be doing the one roll twist again. I think that they're gonna probably do 2 tribes on the same beach.
I could see that.
When you think about it, it's actually very smart because one of the problems with the merge is that then like the next day they got to vote someone else. But if you make them all have to be on the same beach a little bit ahead before you go into a merge, you kind of prevent that like we have to vote by tribal lines because you get a few extra days of them being able to talk to each other.
Maybe. Yeah, I do think that would be an interesting thing for it to happen. Another thing I was thinking of is kind of like not necessarily a tryouts because Survivor people are only eliminated by, being voted out without, like outside game interference being like an injury or being evacuated because, family thing or quitting. Was that I feel like it might be something where it's a challenge to get immunity or kind of like be on a safe tribe. And then the other people that remain are going to tribal.
That would be interesting.
I mean, there's tons of different speculations. If I was rewatching the episode and I was looking at the surroundings, but then again, sometimes they like to set up stuff and be like, nah, this was all to just throw you off. Or
I think it would be really interesting if they had that challenge have like a time limit, like a 10 minutes to finish this challenge, and everyone who succeeds is safe. Everyone who doesn't go to tribal, so that way it kind of is a little bit like, oh, who's going to be the ones that have to go? Like there's really no real guarantee.
Yeah,
it could be it could be almost everyone. It could be like only a couple of people.
Could be one person.
Yeah, one person who just loses.
I mean, it's possible because UA being down to like 2 people, they were gonna do something, especially since it's at 12, and we all speculated whether it be 12 or 13 or 12 or 11 for the merge. So it's curious to be like, all right, are they going to have but also it's like a new stage of Survivor too. So it's like, could it be something that we haven't really thought of yet? Or maybe it is a thing where it is a trial by challenge and, oh, the last person there is the last person to not make the jury in a sense. It could be that.
I'm curious if they are going to still have one more pre-merge jury, or if they are going to consider this person that jury member, because sometimes they do, even if it's not necessarily like the merge, they'll have the jury member maybe start here. Like I wonder if they are going to have it do the next one, or if we're gonna have to wait a little bit more.
It's a little tricky. Also, the possibility of this is still I feel a little low, but the possibility of it being a final 2 this time around also might play into a factor. Because usually if there's a final 3 or something, 9 jury members, or 10 in more recent seasons. But like if like this person is cut out and there's only 8 people, it's like, huh, or not 8, 9 people, then it's like, oh, then this could be like a final two scenario.
Mhm. Yeah, I like the final two. Like, I think final two is good to throw it in every now and then. Like, I think I
Yeah,
prefer the final three overall, but like when we get to final three over and over and over again, it's great when you have that final two. That's why Kagiyan was great. It created a great TV moment by having a final two. So
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So it's like, did you do the game within the game thing? Because sometimes
I
it
I
does.
I did not do that this week. I
Neither
will
do
say
I.
I've been bored with it. It has
Well, I
not
mean, it's like
been a success for me.
it's been like, all right, it's nice to like see it and like try and figure it out, like after the fact. But like, I don't know. I guess it is one of those things where it is for like kids that really want to like do a little bit more and stuff.
Mhm.
I was only asking because like you said that they had like hints to the next episode of a
Yeah,
situation.
yeah. Honestly, once I started realizing that, I think they're just kind of saying very vague survivor like moments and stuff. They're not really actually giving like I don't think they're really giving hints. I think they're just saying, "Hey, this is something that can happen on Survivor. Watch out for it." But it's not happening. I don't know. So far, out of the few I've seen, those are not coming to fruition.
Uh, I don't know because that is an interesting thing. I mean, the whole thing could even be a cop out too.
Yeah.
It could be, just be like, yeah, we're in a kind of like in Gabon where it was like, oh yeah, we're just switching teams. It's not a merge, and then
Mhm.
like at the next challenge, yeah, it actually is kind of like a merge.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't imagine this going on for more than just this one tribal. Like whatever is about to happen, I think it's going to be a quick thing and then into the merge.
yeah,
Which yet again, I just feel like they got to be sharing the same beach, just because I think that they're gonna want, especially for this season where it rates so much quicker, like they're gonna want people to have a chance to talk to each other before they have to vote someone else.
yeah. The fact that this is going to be day 12 and stuff like for this, we're going to say merge limbo
Yeah,
until like we finally watch the episode, and then we'll give it its official term
yeah.
on our like thing.
Uh,
But like this merge limbo where we're already getting there, which is kind of like the fastest time we've ever in Survivor history gotten this. Like it's
mhm.
like merge day 12, and it's just like what
What?
because like
Yeah,
usually 6 or 7 is where episode wise is where they try and have the merge
yeah,
and these
exactly.
days.
Mhm.
So yeah, could there even possibility be like a double elimination thing, because they also like
Mhm.
doing that like a merge, split them up into like temporary like tribes for
Yeah,
individual immunity. um
that's very possible too.
yeah,
Yeah, I hope not, because we're getting down to the wire and I don't want everyone to just suddenly disappear. Like that would, I think, spell doom for Xander, for instance.
that's the it's I don't know, like until we know what the game is, or like what this next stage of the game is,
Mhm.
whether it's like a temporary, the pre-merge limbo thingy.
Mhm.
um we don't know where we go from there,
Yeah.
because there's like too many tribe swap. Obviously like you can't necessarily predict, but like you can theorize, oh, how would they interact with this or that person
Mhm.
or something like that, or
Yeah.
if they lose their number one, or if an idol's been found yet. This one, especially since it's a new era, it's hard to define what it might actually be.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, I'm just glad that our brand Steel was correct with Danny and winning all these pre-merge, because
yeah,
regardless, like I'm considering that accomplished after this week.
and we have seen like one team get decimated in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah, UA has been to, out of 5 episodes, 4 out of 5 of them. I also
yeah,
like in the challenge where the editing also got us, where it showed Ricard pulling it back, and it was like slowing down for
yeah,
that hero moment, the comeback thing, and he
yeah,
misses. And it was just like now they're just playing with us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up too because I thought that was a great moment. Nasir yet again showing that he is great in challenges as well.
Yeah,
Like he
yeah,
like this for the blue tribe and the green tribe. It was mostly Ricard and Nasir doing most of the work. Danny came in to relieve Nasir for a little bit in the toss, but it was really like Nasir and Ricard doing a lot of that work.
man, it's I don't know. I mean, like, granted, I haven't like looked at Ricard's performances in a lot of the challenges, just mostly because JD was doing
Everything.
so. I would say he was more showy with how
Yeah.
bad he was at
Yeah.
the challenge,
Yeah.
where
Well, he would
he
also
drummed.
he ate up a lot of time too in terms of like him being out there, so we didn't get to see as much.
Yeah, yeah. Because I don't think it was necessarily being bad. It was just like,
Mhm.
the other two were faster at it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tricky. We're not out. So, and especially this time, we don't know, like, going forward what will be. I mean, in rewatches, yeah, we might, but
Mhm.
um, it is interesting now that Shan and Ricard are the last two. And obviously, there is some, like, mirroring going on from what happened with Matt Singh way back in the Philippines.
Mhm.
Um, if these will be the two that kind of like go super super far in the game now,
Uh-huh.
or because where we have it, if we take out any of the extra votes or stuff like that, we have a tribe of 6 and and a tribe of 2 and a tribe of 4. Like,
Mhm.
if the two smaller tribes were to team up, it would be even, not counting like
Yeah.
extra votes and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't think I don't know if they're going to necessarily go far. I still think I think Ricard's going to go out probably around like eighth or something. Like I think he's going to go out around mid merge. And it's probably going to be because of Shan, and then that's I think going to be something that gives a lot of people like the warning sensors about Shan is that she just betrayed someone who on paper was her biggest ally, even if she maybe was now with Liana, and
Yeah,
maybe that will make Shan go out like sixth or something like that.
maybe it's quite
Mm-hmm.
possible.
Yeah.
Though, these two just like surviving all that, and Ricard put it at you know, put it pretty well. Like, those two are dangerous moving forward because literally they've played more Survivor than any of the other tribes have. So it's
Yeah.
like, they're already experienced. They already know how to like maneuver and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, which is one of the plus sides of being on a losing tribe. However, each time you're like, in this one, it did feel like a little bit like Russian roulette. It's like, all right,
Mhm.
who's it gonna be?
Yeah,
You know,
I
like,
thought for sure Jeannie was gonna play her shot in the dark. I will say though, it was great on Shan for basically in her convention or like talking when she was talking to Jeff about not that you shouldn't play your shot in the dark because you got to trust whoever it is after this.
yeah.
Which basically is like telling everyone like don't play your shot in the dark or I'm not gonna vote with you.
Not only that, I mean, there's genuine validity to what she was saying too,
Yeah.
because like, the less people there are, the more your vote matters. Because like, and with everything that was going on that tribe, like, I everyone was kind of like vulnerable. There were moments where I'm like, oh, is this where Ricard gets betrayed, especially after that fight? Because it did seem very, very tense. Like,
Mhm.
I think that could be foreshadowing more stuff going forward. Especially since, Shan has Liana now.
Yeah.
Or, well, potentially
It's looking like they're
where
gonna team up. Yeah.
yeah, after whatever this new twist is
Yeah.
going forward, especially if there's been discordance between them, and Liana has and Shan have a deep bond, you know going forward it might benefit her more. So like with that one, you didn't really know. I felt like it could have been any of them
Mhm.
at that point
Um,
because yeah, it was just because like individual game wise, and Jeannie made a like a solid point. It was like, do you want someone that's going to be more loyal to you?
mhm.
And
Yeah.
especially after the whole Ricard thing, and plus like you
Yeah.
know going forward, it's not too bad to like have a goat.
Mhm.
Then again, Jeannie, one thing that started at the very beginning of the video, they were like, "Oh, we're a three, we're a three, we're a three," and I'm just kind of like,
You don't know that yet. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, granted, I think it was smart for Jeannie not to open the idol then and there,
Mhm.
but but showing it to Shan and Ricard, it was just like, you you guys might be going to tribal council. Don't do this to yourself.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it was I think at least going into it, I kind of had a feeling it might be this tribe that goes, and if that's the case, I was, thinking it's going to be Genie who
there was there was like a little description because I was watching it live. Um,
mhm.
and on the TV guide thing, it was like, oh, the Ue tribe competes to win immunity. And I'm like, why did they specifically say UA?
Yeah,
Is it
well,
because they've been losing a lot and now it's like, really, really prominent? Or is it like, oh, are they actually going? Granted, the descriptions don't really say whoever gets voted off, which I think because remember for Total Drama, they got super lazy with their. It was like, oh,
mhm.
Scarlet gets eliminated and so does Max. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, thank you.
Yeah, or
Um,
they say like this person did something that upset everyone, and it's
and
like,
I'm like,
well, if you watch Total Drama, you know the person who got everyone's bad side that episode is probably the one going home.
or like, if they've been getting like a lot of screen time and it looks like a character arc is like finished, then
Mhm.
ooh. Or
Yeah.
the Donkulus race, it was like, oh, if like a certain two pair were having like a little spat or something, it was like, oh, they're probably gonna get eliminated.
Uh-huh.
However, in
Um,
actual Survivor,
yeah.
yeah, like I was just like, because when I saw that, I was like thinking, huh, could it be? Could it
Yeah.
be?
Yeah,
Um,
I will say I think it was the right move for Shan to vote out Genie here. Even though Genie would have been loyal, I think going into two, if you're the last two of a tribe going into the merge,
you have to be tight.
you are forced to be loyal to each other for the majority of the game at least. Like at least to like
Yeah,
final five, I'd say. You'd be wanting to stay together.
true.
So that's I don't think loyalty is necessarily what you want moving forward. I think you want someone who is strategic and is thinking about the game and is actually helping. Like she like we got to really see their dynamic where Ricard is the one who comes up with these ideas and then Chantel gets to carry them out. Um, which we also still though see Ricard being like, hey, she's taking the credit for all of my moves that I'm coming up with just because she's the one who's executing them.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, it's kind of like the thing of like, and you might relate to this, but like when you hire a writer, like, oh, I have a great idea for like, a script. I'm
mhm,
not really a writer, so let me hire someone. It's kind of
mhm,
like one might have had the idea, but the other person like wrote it, or
yeah,
like, or it's kind of like in a different thing, like, uh, someone might write the script, but someone else, like the director, gets a lot more love because like their name is like more prominently featured.
yeah,
But like the person that wrote it is someone's completely different,
yeah,
and they don't get a lot of love. It's like, oh no, the
yeah.
director. I get like the actors because they're the faces like we see,
Uh-huh.
but like the director is usually the second person to get like the love, and writers can be
Yeah.
like an afterthought,
We get like the last
unfortunately.
thing, unless the writers are also in it. They who cares about them?
Which is a little unfortunate. It's a
Yeah,
little backwards in a way. It's
yeah,
I mean, it's all a group effort, but like
uh,
low key writers, like they important,
yeah,
very
yeah.
important.
Yeah, yeah. I remember playing this game, Destroy All Humans 2. I don't know if you ever played the Destroy All Humans
I'm
game.
I never played. I played a little bit of one, but
Uh,
at a friend's house. But I'm familiar with what the franchise is.
yeah, there's like some joke I remember where they basically, well, the main character bashes writers, like, why do we need writers? And then the other character just goes into like this really long, like 3 minute monologue about how the writers are the core to the ecosystem of Hollywood. And I was like, that's hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah, but anyways, I was mostly just saying because I think that we got to see Ricard. His wheel is turning in terms of, hey, I'm not getting the recognition that I feel I deserve for all these moves, which is never great when you have a duo and one of those duos is thinking like that.
True. I guess it's also a thing because Jeff also kind of put it well, where it was like, before the jury, there's really no blood on your hands in a sense because the people aren't there to tell the tale
Uh,
or, potentially vote for the other person for $1 million. So like, because it's them two moving forward, they can totally kind of like assess because yeah, they had like a little fight. But they if they kind of like talk it out a little bit more moving forward, they could be stronger as a result because
yeah.
like they're the ones that control the narrative of what happened on their tribe because they're the ones that are there to live to tell about it.
Yeah, and they're so
Um,
tight that they probably went back and they talked about what happens if they merge or something. Like, what are they going to tell everyone?
yeah. Um,
Yeah, I also want to say I think this was in terms of the start that Chantel wanted. I think this was probably the worst thing that could happen to someone of like that's playing her kind of game, because her game was about getting people's connections and making sure everyone was trusting her, and now her tribe was the one that got decimated. So now she only has Ricard to show from all that groundwork that she has done. Like, even though that we've seen her game and it's been great, there's now this point where it gets kind of cut off, and now she's got to replicate that again. But it also means that these last 5 episodes have kind of it could be meaningless in the overarching story. It could just be great, for her on how to win this tribe, but it might not necessarily mean everything.
that's a valid point.
Yeah.
That is tough if you're a social player on a losing tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's why Michelle Fitzgerald did so good. Her tribe got to survive long enough. Like, she never went to any tribal, so she was able to have that relationship at least help her move forward a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess it's like interesting. Like it's kind of like, and one thing we do have to talk about, and it's about seeing the whole picture of the season. It's kind of like similar to the whole story. I feel like everything that we went through with like the Beware idols prior to this
Mm-hmm.
was kind of worth it. Where it kind of like because we know that, or because having watched it and see it actually be revealed
Mm-hmm.
and it actually activating, it kind of like backdates and improves upon what was already established there. Kind of like, because I feel like because it was like it seemed like such an impossible thing for it to actually be done, especially since Luvu tribe wasn't, yeah, they didn't show it, them looking for it.
Yeah, which by the way was a great idol reveal. Like, I think this is one of the best idol reveals we've seen.
Yeah. And that whole thing where it was like, oh yeah, my girl, my daughter would hide a idol, and like we made a game of it. I was like,
yeah,
Nasir, you are too precious for this world.
yeah. How can you not love Nasir after this episode? And it was the greatest thing. It was so great to see the two tribes say their phrases and manage to get out. Ricard gives layups to both Chantel and Xander by like setting it up for them, which is great.
Yeah, I got it. Like, and that was another thing like we were concerned about was like how awkwardly it might come up in conversation, not organically, but like no, they were able to like.
Yeah,
make it work.
Ricard thought about it. Yeah, he put in effort, and then it was great for Jeff to, he was about to move on, and then we just hear Nasir go, "Wait, Jeff, I'm as confused as a goat on AstroTurf."
And I was like, oh my gosh, yay. I like how yeah, that was a great bit of editing there. Yeah, I like when that stuff happens.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just
well,
made for a great moment with a lot of
yeah.
payoff.
Yeah, well, it makes the audience feel like one of the other tribes that
Yeah,
suddenly, you don't know who's going to say what's on that tribe. Like, you have no idea if Lulu has the idol. And they had like a whole deal. Like, we really saw the last few episodes, them kind of saying, like, Lulu is not finding this idol. Like,
yeah,
no one, it's
yeah,
not happening. Are they ever going to find it? And so it was great to have the editing perspective of us being one of those people on the other tribes.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
What else is there? I want to make sure if there's anything.
Mhm.
I think there
Uh,
was this.
Here's something I remember. So we had back of the Lulu tribe, them, Deshaun and Danny talking about throwing the challenge again.
Yeah,
And ultimately they asked Nasir what he thinks, and he turned it down.
yeah,
And despite Deshaun and Danny still kind of wanting to do it, they agreed to do the challenge.
yeah. I think it's like, yeah. I felt like, well, I don't think Nasir would have been on board with that regardless, because it's like, because it can be a risky thing throwing a
Yeah,
challenge,
yeah,
because you know not only could you lose momentum, it could also very much backfire on you,
mhm,
like it did in San Juan del Tur with
yeah,
I even forget his name. It doesn't help when A, you're a pre-merge boot, and B, you look so much like your brother that it's like
yeah.
uh
Yeah, it was a Drew Christie, right? Wasn't that his name?
I don't think it was Drew. It was something that's like a regular name, but not like a common regular name,
Uh,
I don't know.
I thought it was Drew. I'm pretty sure it's Drew.
Eh,
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah. Drew Christie, and then his brother was Alec Christie.
oh, okay, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. Well, it's kind of like one of those things where, yeah. But also I feel like, we want them to succeed because like the fact of like, granted, it's happened a lot more in, I would say, more recent seasons where, multiple people come in with, not having to go to like tribal
Uh-huh.
ever
Yeah.
pre-merge. But like, it's still like a pretty cool thing to see though, even
Yeah.
if it's more common, because it's
Yeah.
like, wow, they all did that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um, even if you have someone like Joe, that's pretty much like,
Yeah.
dominating everything, so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Or the only athlete on the season, Danny, right here.
Dan- Nasir is all
Let's
Nasir is
see.
up there. He was like,
Yeah.
what's up?" Um, and I think as we go into an individual game, this also happened earlier in the episode, but with Sydney, with like the fishing and stuff, she does seem like someone where in the individual game going forward, when she's actually able to strategize,
Mhm.
um, we're going to see a lot more of her because she's
Yeah.
already like setting up like, oh, she can be physical, she is
Yeah.
strategic.
She's kind of in a weird way getting like also almost a winner's edit. Like she's getting so much content for never going, and it's not necessarily like important. This is vital to the story content. It's like we learned that she's the provider of this tribe. Like that is something that is often given to someone who is wanting to make a deep run and getting votes by that maybe you're not expecting them to get those kind of votes.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, yeah, she's in like every episode. That there has not been an episode where Sydney doesn't get something.
yeah, and this has been a season where I would say my biggest complaint, and I don't really have too many complaints about this season, especially after this episode where it kind of like redeems stuff that was in the past,
Mhm.
is that the narrative does kind of like shift around a lot. And
Mhm.
so like there are some people like, like last week we didn't really get to see too much of like Evie, or like, prior to like
Mhm.
last episode when Deshaun
Yeah,
and Danny were trying to throw the challenge, we didn't really get too much of like Danny as a result.
yeah,
Granted, that can always be like, a thing when it comes to like Survivor, is just because like, especially when you have 3 tribes and you're juggling all
Yeah.
of that, it can be tricky,
Yeah, yeah. One tribe usually gets kind of shunned for the episode, where they're
Yeah.
like, "That tribe doesn't really matter right now. Let's talk about this tribe, and then maybe next week this tribe is going, so let's focus on them to set up their storyline for that."
I think that was Shannon and Ricard's plan. It was like, let's just lose all these challenges so we get the most screen.
Yeah, exactly. Let's make the most of this.
If you survive to live the tale, it could work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the intentional Matt Singh could work for them. Who knows?
Uh, yeah. I mean, it works in the sense where, all right, they're in the next stage of this game, be it
Yeah,
a switch or whatever,
yeah,
or this purge or mergatory.
yeah,
That's the official name, mergatory.
yeah, yeah. I think going into also this tribe, if they were to go down to two, I kind of called Ricard and Shan. Like, I just felt like those were the two most likely to navigate this tribe.
I agree. I agree.
So it's good to see that was correct.
Well, I mean, especially since if we go back as far as like Brad and stuff. Well, I mean, Brad, he was a little wishy-washy in the sense of like, yeah, he was someone that was, straightforward for the most part, but
Yeah,
she showed like, some shady tendencies. And even though like JD was like, did some like, hiding stuff, he was still like really trying to work with, Ricard and Shan.
mhm.
And it's like, the other 3, they were trying to be in it, but they weren't like aggressive strategists.
Yeah,
So it
yeah. I
makes
mean, this
sense.
was just Shan and Ricard making that day one bond, pretty much. That I think they were the two that knew the game the most on this tribe, like in terms of like how to actually do it. Like, I know JD was a super fan and everything, but that doesn't always mean that super fans know the game,
Or
extremely
yeah,
well.
it just didn't feel like he had the bloodlust to do like
Yeah.
because usually if there's 2 on the top, someone that's a little bit bloodthirsty is going to be like, hey,
Yeah. Well, I
let's
think
just flip the switch.
I think JD, if they got to the merge, one or two tribals in, he would have flipped to whatever he thought was the numbers. If Shan and Ricard had the numbers, he would have stayed with them. If he thought that Luvu was staying strong, he would have flipped to them.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Is there anything else? Want to make sure. I
Yeah.
think.
One more thing, I guess. The Yasa, back on the Yasa tribe. Tiffany and Liana going through Xander's bag, which I thought was interesting because I don't know. I kind of thought that Xander was very transparent about
Yeah, I did find
this
that a
stuff.
little confusing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess like because I think because he told Evie, maybe like Tiffany wasn't truly in the know
Yeah.
because like Tiffany was kind of like all over when it came to last time
Yeah.
where all the issues and stuff was happening back in episode 2 where
Yeah.
because like granted for them it was like a week ago where
Yeah.
all this transpired, but like for
Yeah.
us it's
Well,
been like so long.
yeah, because it was so interesting because Evie was willing to tell other tribe members about Xander's idol. Yet I guess she didn't tell Liana and Tiffany about that. Like, you think that she
I
would
could
have
have
told
sworn she
them.
told Liana.
Yeah, and yeah,
Like,
so it was just weird for Leon to be like, "There's an extra vote in here. Oh my gosh, he has an idol." Like, it was like, yeah,
yeah, Xander told everyone about the extra vote thing,
yeah,
about the prisoners.
exactly. Yeah, like, so I will say that seemed like unneeded. Like, it seemed like they needed to fill an extra minute or two of screen time, and
Yeah,
they said, let's do this one because they think it might be fun to show that, but it definitely seemed like unnecessary filler.
yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, but
Um,
overall, I think this episode was great despite the advantage. I think the advantage knocks this episode a little bit. Like I really think that the knowledge is power brings it down. Like last episode I thought was like a great episode of Survivor. Like I think it was really great. I would say that this one is definitely under that in terms of it, but it was still good. It was still a good Survivor.
I don't know. I feel like this one was like it's hard for me for like a series for me to like choose a favorite episode of something because it all kind of like it's kind of all telling the same story. But I feel like this one I enjoyed it so much because of all the payoff we've gotten on here, and you know, at Tribal when you don't know how clear cut it is, is always great. The Nasir thing, and I feel like it could be a thing where later on down the line, when Liana actually uses that advantage, we might have like a deeper appreciation for it. But I admit, yeah, it can be a very broken one, especially this season where everyone knows everything.
I mean, I think it's just pretty clear that the best parts of the season isn't when they're going to Prisoner's Dilemma Island or getting some advantage. Like the best parts of the season is surprisingly when we're just allowed to see the characters interact with each other.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I think, well, I mean, that's the part of Prisoner's Dilemma, like, you know, that, you know, her backstory and stuff. Like, granted, like we read up and watched some stuff about it, but like going into depth about, I didn't know that, like, you know,
I think I would prefer if when they get to the top of the thing, there's like a little table and they can just like have a small little meal before they have to go back. Like I would much prefer that than them having to now deal with this advantage. And now they just talk about like who's taking it and who's not. So there's no like intention of like, ooh, are we gonna pick the right one? Like that game has kind of just been side
yeah, it's been just kind of like, all right, what do we need at the moment? I really need this. It's been kind of like so meta played that it's kind of like it's no longer like a, all right, do you want the advantage or do I want the advantage?
So I would really just prefer if they literally their reward was just like getting a small little meal and being able to talk to each other over the meal, and we just kind of get like a character, you know, building between those two people.
That could be. We don't know what the merge is going to bring and how Prisoner's Dilemma is going to play into that. Because is it going to be kind of similar? Because the point of Prisoner's Dilemma was also to get intel from other tribes and stuff. So yeah, and granted, we didn't get it every episode, 4 out of 5, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what becomes of it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think that's about everything, right? I think that's pretty much everything that we could have covered.
Yeah, except best player and worst player. Best player, I have to give it to Nasir.
I was going to say, I think there's 2 obvious candidates, and I was going to give it to Nasir as well.
Yeah. Who is your second?
Shan. It was still Shan, and then Ricard would probably be a third. Like I think I do think that Ricard played also really good this episode. I guess the only thing we really didn't talk about, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, is Shan requesting the idol or the extra vote back from Ricard's, basically trying to say, hey, you can't have any power in this game. I want all the power.
I think it was one of those things where it was like to kind of like, you know, that fight. To go more into detail with that, it is a thing where it's like, yes, having an advantage and keeping it around or holding on to it and be like, oh, it's ours, but if I give it to you, what's gonna stop you from voting me out? And it's kind of like it's that like trust thing where it's like, and especially since Shan has been known to like get rid of people that she has an attachment for as well.
And this is actually the reason why I choose Nasir over Shan actually was this one move, because I actually think that this was I think that she should have just trusted Ricard. I think now that she did bring it up, I think Ricard's going to remember that.
I think,
which is a little like, even though, you know, we've seen now Shan and Ricard working together so long, this last little moment right before Tribal, we kind of saw Ricard now being like, well, why can't you trust me? Like,
It
like
could be
you
a
trusted
thing
me
where
before.
it could be a thing, like I said earlier, they could like build from that and be like, okay, going forward.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it is one of those things where it did seem like some foreshadow when, Shan was talking about Ricard of like things to come of like, oh, that it is going to be rocky. They're tight, but there's definitely like chinks in their friendship armor.
Yeah, definitely.
But
Yeah.
For worst player, I'm a little torn between two. Between Genie and Xander. The only reason
Mhm.
I'm leaning more toward Genie is more so of like believing that she was like in a solid 3 before tribal.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's 3 of you left.
Yeah.
You can't think of you all as a 3.
Yeah, and also the fact that she doesn't play her shot in the dark. She doesn't get the idol. She gives Chantel and Ricard
Let's
basically the idol. So
Yeah, and I'm like, I get it. When there's 3 people and you only have 1 vote, it's like,
yeah. Imagine if Jeannie decided to open the idol and not tell Shannon Ricard's. She goes onto the mat, says the phrase. They would have obviously known, but it doesn't matter. You have the idol. Just play it this time. You're in. So I think because of that, I think there's a way for Jeannie to make it to next week. And she like a pretty like straightforward path from where she was. And she didn't do it.
she did not. No.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
the
yeah.
only reason I was thinking Xander was because of the whole like Tiffany thing. Just like, moving forward, because I think trust was the name of the game of this episode. Like trust and bonds was like a big theme and going forward.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, I have to give it to Jeannie because it just led to her elimination and it was kind of preventable.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright.
Yeah, that pretty much does it. Oh, let's I guess do a little recap though of our draft, our
Yep.
fantasy survivor. So you're
Not
down
looking
now
good.
to 5 survivors.
Yep, and I have a total of, hold on, let me get to the page because I have 3 from the first 2, and then
And then you got 5 from
5 from
JD, and then 6
so
from
8.
Jeannie.
So I'm at 14, you're at 7, but these leads are not, they're deceptive.
No.
It's like,
yeah,
you need to lose, like,
if I lose the next person, I get 7 points, and I'm up to 14, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you need to lose like 3 in a row.
Yeah.
In order
Yeah.
for me to be,
If we lose Shan, Seer, Erica, Tiffany, or Heather next, it will be hilarious because it will just
like,
be your.
there's no way for me to win after that.
Yeah, it definitely becomes pretty hard to come back.
And like right now, it's a little hard to come back because you have 7 peeps.
Yeah, I think you now need like at least 2 people to make it to the end and another person to make the finale for a chance.
I have, if I can make it to the dang list. Well, I mean, who I have, I kind of have like a mixture. Like I feel like, Tiffany and Tiffany might go a bit further if this like, it's tough because of this like mergatory thing that's going on.
Yeah, I will say Tiffany and Heather actually. So the thing is about being an older woman is that it sucks early on, but if you make it to the merge, you have a lot of benefits to make it deep into the game. Like at some point, they'll probably say like, "Hey, we can't let the mom make it to the end because that's that's too much." But like
the only thing is, I feel that Heather has a slight advantage over Tiffany because Tiffany plays a bit more aggressively. We haven't seen Heather play because obviously no tribal, but also I have Erica, who is trying to make moves, but like out of the immediate threats there, and plus with tribe chemistry at the merge or the mergatory. And then, then I got Nasir and Chantel, which I feel are people that are going to be around for a while. I
Mhm.
feel Nasir kind of like an Elaine thing where it's like I feel especially when it's Final Seven or something, they're gonna be looking at Nasir. He's like, this guy is
Yeah.
like he's too friendly. He's good
Yeah.
at stuff. He
I,
has
I, I think I think he's
sword.
gonna find another idol. To be honest, I think he's gonna probably find like the merge idol. Like I do think that he has that ability, especially if he plays his idol. Like I imagine him to be the guy who wakes up really early the next day to go look for it again.
I can see that. And that's another question. Will the Mersh idol also be a Beware idol?
Yeah, who knows?
Because I can see them doing like another game, not necessarily the password stuff, but like, oh, so there's another idol hidden. You can't look
Yeah,
for it, but the other
yeah,
idol has to be found by
yeah.
someone else, and you can't tell them this or something like
Yeah,
that.
and they can only activate if you maybe know who. Like you have to basically show the idols to each other, so you have to know who has the idol, and then be able to like do something like that. So there could be something involved
Yeah,
with that.
because it does seem like this season it's all about, you know, each advantage kind of like puts you on the spot.
Yeah,
And whether it's you have to say a password or oh you have to call someone out at tribal council.
yeah,
So who's to say that the merge idol, especially at the merge, it might be even harder for its activation requirement.
uh,
um yeah, I'm interested to see what becomes of it.
yeah, yeah. I wonder if they will just maybe have the merch idol, but it's just like you can't vote as long as you have this idol.
I don't know. I do like how they do have like a little penalty to it,
Uh-huh.
or because it adds to the stakes.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
I, I,
all
I have not been a fan of losing your vote as long as the idol isn't activated. I think losing your vote for one tribal is plenty. I think telling them that you cannot use your vote at all until it gets activated is way too much.
well. I mean, on paper, yes, but if we look at the people that have found the idols, Nasir, who's never been to tribal council
Yeah,
and never had to worry about that.
yeah,
Brad, who basically, if that one tribal council thing was it, well, he was already gone.
yeah,
And then we have Xander, who only since then has only been in one tribal council since he found it, and then every other time UA has lost. And then
yeah,
Shan, who obviously it got activated the same episode she found it.
yeah,
So
exactly.
I guess it wasn't. I guess it could have been broken in the
Mhm.
sense of like it could have been very very detrimental
Yeah.
and hurt someone's game,
Mhm.
but it just ended up not doing that
Uh,
um, because of like how travels and stuff went.
yeah. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I mean, imagine if you were Xander and the Austin tribe did just get decimated. Like that would just be the worst way
Yeah,
for your survivor experience to go is like, oh, I found an idol, so I couldn't play the game.
fair. I don't know. Well, who knows? Maybe production looking at all this because I'm pretty sure they have like a printer, whatever they print those pieces of paper on. They can just like do whatever they want as the game is going because it
Uh,
is like a live game as they're playing it.
yeah, exactly. They do come up with stuff like on the fly pretty much in terms of like, hey, we need to do this now, or we need to add this in to make it more exciting or interesting. So
Yeah,
yeah, production has been known to wiggle around and try to fix things as they go.
midway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. That pretty much wraps up everything. We've talked about everything that happened, what could happen. Yeah. What do you guys think this Mergatory is going to be? Um, its official name until it gets an
Yeah.
official name.
Yeah. Merge and Purgatory combined.
Mergatory.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I'm really just curious to know if they are going to start the jury member phase at this kind of thing, or if they are going to wait until the real merge happens.
We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I
Yeah.
hope you guys have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we shall see you in the next episode.
Peace.